Agarwal welcomes you all to our channel A to Z Softech. Here you will get educational videos related to NCERT subjects and technical subjects based on computer science. If you find our videos helpful to you, so please like and share the videos. Do subscribe the channel and hit the bell icon to get updates about new videos. To get more clarity on the topic, please watch the video till the end. Feel free to post your queries in the comment section below the video. You will get the link of data related to the video in the description box. You can find our video using hashtag NCERT by Priyanka ma'am or hashtag NCERT A to Z Softech. Now let's start with the topic.
Hello, greetings to all. Today we are going to start chapter 2 of class 8 history, that is from state to territory. So let's start. Contents. In this chapter we will study about East India Company, Vasco da Gama, East India Company trading in Bengal, how trade lead to battles, the Battle of Plassey, Tipu Sultan, war with the Marathas, the doctrine of LAPSE, subsidiary alliance, and the company army. Introduction. Aurangzeb was the last of the powerful Mughal rulers. He established control over a very large part of the territory that is now known as India. After his death in 1707, many Mughal governors and big zamindars began asserting their authority and establishing regional kingdoms. By the second half of the 18th century, however, a new power was emerging on the political horizon, the British. Did you know that the British originally came as a small trading company and were reluctant to acquire territories? East India Company. In 1600, the East India Company acquired a charter from the ruler of England, Queen Elizabeth I, granting it his sole right to trade with the East. This meant that no other trading group in England could compete with the East India Company. By the time the first English ships sailed down the west coast of Africa, round the Cape of Good Hope and across the Indian Ocean, the Portuguese had already established their presence in the western coast of India and had their base in Goa. It was Vasco da Gama, a Portuguese explorer, who had discovered this sea route to India in 1498. You can also observe this sea route in this map. East India Company begins trade in Bengal. The first English factory was set up on the banks of the river Hooghly in 1651. This was the base from which the company's traders, known at that time as factors, operated. The factory had a warehouse where goods for export were stored, and it had offices where company officials sat. As trade expanded, British bribed Mughal officials into giving the company zamindari rights over 3 villages. One of these was Calicut, which later grew into the city of Calcutta or Kolkata as it is known today. It also persuaded the Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb to issue a farman granting the company the right to trade duty-free. How trade led to battles. Through the early 18th century, the conflict between the company and the Nawabs of Bengal intensified. After the death of Aurangzeb, the Bengal Nawabs asserted their power and autonomy. Nawab of Bengal refused to grant the company concessions, demanded large tributes from the company's right to trade, denied it any right to mint coins, and stopped it from extending its fortification. The conflicts lead to famous Battle of Plassey. So here our first part of this chapter ends. So keep learning and stay safe. Thank you all. Greetings to all. Today we are going to start second part of our chapter 2 history class 8, that is from trade to territory. We already discussed up to how trade lead to battles in our previous part. In this part, we will discuss about the Battle of Plassey, Tipu Sultan and war with the Marathas. So let's start. The Battle of Plassey. When Alivardi Khan died in 1756, Sirajuddaulah became the Nawab of Bengal. After negotiations with British, the Nawab marched with 30,000 soldiers to the English factory at Qasim Bazar, captured the company's official, locked the warehouse, disarmed all Englishmen, and blocked English ships. Then he marched to Calcutta to establish control over the company's fort there. On hearing the news of the fall of Calcutta, company officials in Madras sent forces under the command of Robert Clive and forced by naval fleets. Prolonged negotiations with the Nawab. Finally, in 1757, Robert Clive led the company's army against Sirajuddaulah at Plassey. One of the main reasons for the defeat of the Nawab was Mir Jafar, one of Sirajuddaullah's commanders. Clive had managed to secure his or Mir Jafar's support by promising to make him Nawab after crushing Sirajuddaulah. Now let's discuss about Tipu Sultan, Tiger of Mysore. Tipu Sultan, also known as the Tiger of Mysore, was the ruler of the kingdom of Mysore from 1782 to 1799 and a scholar, soldier and poet. Tipu promoted a more widespread use of Hindustani language in southern India. In 1785, Tipu Sultan stopped the export of sandalwood, pepper and cardamom through the ports of his kingdom and disallowed local merchants to trade with the company. 4 wars were fought with Mysore. They were in 1767 to 69, 1780 to 84, 1790 to 92, and last one was in 1799. In the Fourth Anglo-Mysore War, the combined forces of the British East India Company and the Nizam of Hyderabad defeated Tipu, and he was killed in 4th May 1799 while defending his fort. War with the Marathas. The First Anglo-Maratha War 1775 to 1782 was the first of three Anglo-Maratha wars fought between the British East India Company and Maratha Empire in India. Second, the Battle of Delhi took place on 11th September 1803 during the Second Anglo-Maratha War between British troops and Marathas, resulting in the British gaining Orissa and the territories north of the Yamuna River, included Agra and Delhi. Finally, the Third Anglo-Maratha War of 1817 to 19 crushed Maratha power. The Peshwa was removed and sent away to Bithur near Kanpur with the pension. The company now had complete control over the territories south of the Vindhyas. So here our second part of this chapter ends. So keep learning and stay safe. Thank you all. Welcome all. Today we are going to start part 3 of chapter 2, class 8 history, that is from trade to territory. So let's start. Contents. In our previous video, we already discussed up to war with Marathas. Now, in this part, we will study about the doctrine of LAPSE, subsidiary alliance, and the company army. The doctrine of LAPSE. The doctrine of lapse was an annexation policy purportedly devised by Lord Dalhousie, who was the Governor-General for the East India from 1848 to 1856. He devised a policy that came to be known as the Doctrine of Lapse. The doctrine declared that if an Indian ruler died without a male heir, his kingdom would lapse, that is, become part of company territory. One kingdom after another was annexed simply by applying this doctrine. Satara, Sambalpur, Udaipur, Nagpur and Jhansi. Finally, in 1856, the company also took over Awadh. Our next topic is subsidiary lands. The doctrine of subsidiary alliance was introduced by Marquis Wellesley, British Governor-General in India from 1798 to 1805. Early in his governorship, Wellesley adopted a policy of non-intervention in the princely states, but he later adopted the policy of forming subsidiary alliances. This policy was to play a major role in British expansion in India. The main principles of a subsidiary alliance were: first, an Indian ruler entering into a subsidiary alliance with the British had to accept British forces within his territory and also agreed to pay for their maintenance. Second, the ruler would accept a British resident in his state. Third, an Indian ruler who entered into a subsidiary alliance would not enter into any further alliance with any other power, nor would he declare war against any power without the permission of the British. Fourth, the ruler would not employ any Europeans other than the British, and if he were already doing so, he would dismiss them. Fifth, in case of a conflict with any other state, he would agree the resolution decided upon by the British. Sixth, the ruler would acknowledge the East India Company as the paramount power in India. 7. In return for the ruler accepting its condition, the company undertook to protect the state from external danger and internal disorders. 8. If the Indian rulers failed to make the payments required by the alliance, then part of their territory was to be taken away as a penalty. So this is all about the subsidiary alliance. Now let's talk about the company army. Traditional army. The Mughal army was mainly composed of cavalry, that were savars, trained soldiers on horseback, and infantry, that is pedal or foot soldiers. They were given training in archery or tirandazi and the use of the sword. A change occurred in the 18th century when Mughal successor states like Awadh and Banaras started recruiting peasants into their armies and training them as professional soldiers. The East India Company adopted the same method when it began recruitment for its own army, which came to be known as the Sepoy army from the Indian word Sipahi, meaning soldier. In the early 19th century, the British began to develop a uniform military culture. Soldiers were trained in European style drill and discipline that regulate their life far more than before. So here our chapter ends. So keep revising and stay safe. Thank you all.